Hello and welcome to Murder Analysed. I'm Christina Moore. Now, before I go into my first case, I must remember that not everyone has seen this channel before. So within Murder Analysed, we deal with true crime cases from across the world. Most of our videos and the cases that we deal with tell everything about the case, or what we know about the case or can find out about the case. Most of the time we try and look at backgrounds and different things of the perpetrators. But in today's case, it's such a new case. This has only been decided in 2020, so it's quite a new case out, so there isn't much on the backgrounds of the people. But this case is a disturbing case. It is about paedophilia. It is about the rape, sexual assaults on children. It does talk about indecent images of children. But today's perpetrator, or one of the perpetrators today, the main perpetrator, is a female paedophile. And I've been asked a lot to do cases and highlight that it's not only men that are paedophiles, it is women. And as we go through this case, you'll see that this girl was a depraved sexual predator. And I think I have put stuff on Mark Tidley's case and stuff where you can see about into the mind of a paedophile, about how they talk about what they do, you know, how they see it, I think. In this case, there isn't much on women paedophiles. In 2009, there was a survey done, and it stated there was about 34% of convictions or reports of sexual assaults or abuse on children through paedophilia were women. In 2016, there has been another statistic done, and that's gone up, and I will talk more about the statistics later on in this case. So if this case or the content within this video and the discussion in this case is not for you, then you should switch off now. So Rebecca Holloway, this paedophile, because that's exactly what she is, child predator, child sex offender, 26-year-old mother. She was a mother. It came out in, I think, 2017 about these offences, and the reason that it's not really been released until 2020, or late 2020, I think August 2020, is because she had found herself a partner in crime. And so, because there was two cases going on, and I've spoke about this in the Baby Peas case, where the court will not release any information, or the press or anybody else is not allowed to release any information on any related cases or on this case, because to link these cases, it would have then put in jeopardy the other case, and then criminals and predators like these could have got away with what they did. Now, this is a shocking case. This is one, and it was described by the judge as one of the worst cases he'd ever seen. The police, the Lincolnshire Police that investigated this case, have said it was the most upsetting case that they'd ever had to manage and try to find things out about this pair. So, you know, as we go into this, I'm just warning you again that this case is disturbing. It is disturbing. It entails rapes of children, and very young children. So in 2017, there was an investigation, a paedophile investigation, online paedophile investigation. What they had noticed is that was on eBay, a man called Oliver Wilson was, and I know it sounds funny that they've looked on eBay, but when you're looking at an investigation with paedophiles, they look everywhere. But it come to their notice that this man this Oliver Wilson, was buying up lots of children's clothes, used clothes, but it was remarks he was making online about these clothings, or these clothes that he had purchased or wanted to purchase from people, these used children's clothes, especially underwear. He just loved little girls' underwear. And I think the police picked this up, and lucky they did really pick this up. So good on the Lincolnshire Police for picking this up. And they sort of come across him, and then they started to then look into his online history and his online chats. And when they found him, because a lot of his chats were on the dark web, but some were quite openly out in normal sites, and you could tell that there was definitely an interest in very young children. And so that then started this investigation off, and it was within this investigation that the name of Rebecca Holloway came up. And they seen then conversations between Holloway and Wilson on, not only on the darknet, but on Snapchat and different things. It was very hard with Snapchat because it doesn't last long, but there was other things that they were doing that the police then could actually research. And it showed then that it wasn't just Oliver Wilson that was a paedophile and a predator, and that he'd also, by this stage, raped young girls. It also showed that Rebecca Holloway was a paedophile, probably more prolific than he was, this 26-year-old mother. And they were sharing photos on the dark web of children, children's clothing, abuse of children, quite disturbing photos. So the police knew now that they had to get this pair. So I think in August, the end of August 2017, both were arrested. So just after the arrest, the police raided Oliver Wilson's property and found lots of incriminating evidence, hundreds and hundreds or thousands really of underwear of children, also indecent images of children, not only what they had taken but also what they distributed and what he had around. It was quite a shocking experience for the police. I don't think the police had ever seen anything like it, and it's very difficult to describe without showing you, but I think his home was too too disgusting, should I say, to show any pictures of these children that had been raped or was being raped and or sexually abused by this pair. And I'm bringing her into this because she was part of it. He was a paedophile in his own right. He had this fantasy about this Lolita fantasy. It was a famous book. It was like a story in the Middle Ages about this professor, and who was sexually involved with a 12-year-old. Now, Oliver Wilson really became infatuated by this story. He wanted to relive this story within this, his fantasies about this rape and about this having these encounters with this 12, 13-year-old girl. But some of his children were a lot younger than that. His victims were a lot younger than that. But this is what this fantasy was about. So when about a year or a year and a half before this, in 2017, when they were caught, Rebecca Holloway and Oliver Wilson met, and they either met, I think it was through Facebook or Tinder. It was one of them that they met. But they was already having these conversations when they first met, He was telling her about his fantasies. She was telling him about her fantasies. Remember, this woman's a mother, has a young child. This woman's 26, has a very young child at home. And this relationship then, and they were sleeping together, they did have a sexual relationship between the two of them as well, for this time up until they was caught. So also, when they raided his property and he was under arrest and they raided his property, they took his phone and other devices from his house, which showed a lot. It showed the depravity of this man. It showed this sexualised and this it was exceptional graphics of children being abused, and the conversations between Rebecca and him were unrepeatable, really. They were just shocking. They were just so depraved. You know, their whole time together was about this plan to abuse, seriously, sexually abuse and hurt children in such a way. Now, at the same time as when she was seeing him and they were having all these conversations, she was actually also seeking out other paedophiles to bring this paedophile gang together. And without a doubt, Rebecca Holloway was the actual leader, or would have been the leader and wanted to be the leader of this paedophile sex ring. Luckily, they were caught before, and what we know of, and it's only what we know of because she's not going to tell you either, of who else may have been involved and how many other children, and we don't know because some of their victims were very, very young, probably too young to even say. But I think it just shows you, I think, with this pair, that this girl in this relationship, in this time spent together, she was eager for him to abuse these children. She wanted to watch. She enjoyed it. She actually got, which is very rare for a woman, even as a serial killer or anything, to do something for sexual gratification. But she did. She was a pure paedophile, sexual predator, sexual child predator, as just as much as any of the most serious men predators and child sex offenders we've got out there. Actually, this woman could even be worse. So at the same time, they were both arrested in 2017, and these officers then found images also on her phone and her computers at home of sexual images of children, and she had also been distributing them out, as I said, because she wanted to make this paedophile gang, and so she was sending out these pictures, you know, to many, many people of these children being abused. Now, the girl, I think, in one of the cases, and in this case was a 12-year-old girl who had been terribly sexually abused by this pair. Also, there was a child. There's no age to that child. It was a very, very young boy, very, very young boy who had been sexually harmed and photographed, and them photographs were then also distributed out to many, many people. So I think when it comes to court, because she comes to court and then she does admit that she's, you know, she's a paedophile and that she's, you know, abused children, she's a sexual abuser, and that she's abused this very, very incredibly young boy, and that she'd caused sexual injury to him. She's also said that she was part of the rape. And so she was arrested and charged with many different things. And she was, she couldn't be sentenced though, until the other trial of Oliver Wilson was taking place, because and also no one could publicise this case either until this other case of William Wilson was complete. Because, you know, if we had, or if anyone had said anything about the connection, you know, we would have been in contempt of court, and we would have gone to prison, probably, you know, because this man and this woman had to be taken off the streets. And if anyone had breached them orders that the court had put in place, because these are so serious offences, you know, and it was made quite clear that no one could say anything. But then in the conclusion, I think, and the case is concluded, or was in 2019, but I think sentencing was put off until 2020 because of the severity of these crimes. So I think Oliver Wilson was charged with 11 counts of rape. He was also charged with then abusing a child, sexually abusing a child, you know, harm to a child. There are lots of things about children, but the main ones were the 11 counts of rape on these children. He was also charged with distributing indecent images of children. Again, it was just, this case is so deprived. The judge, I think, couldn't even believe what he was hearing. The evidence and that the jury heard was so, they were so distraught, I think, at this case. So with this sentencing, it wasn't really then done until 2020, and that's why now we can talk about it, and that was late in 2020. So this case, there isn't, I don't know much about the background of Rebecca Holloway, because I think it hasn't been wrote about, because she was a mother, she had a child, and so that child's identity and that child, you know, yes, this is her name, but this child has to be protected. There isn't much out about him either, to tell the truth. And to tell the truth, I think when it comes to paedophiles, when it comes to these sort of predators, it's hard, you know, when we talk about serial killers, we see behaviours, but when we talk about paedophiles, there's not usually that much in their background. Not really. Because anybody can be a paedophile. You know, so I don't really think it matters much about this pair's background because of what they are. So as for Oliver Wilson's crimes, of what he was charged with, these 11 counts of rape, these would have been on very, very young children. And because they're children, there's no way we can name them, nor would I anyway name them. But the judge, I think, in this case, said about Rebecca Holloway, you were there encouraging Wilson with this sexual acts and to which this poor young child was subjected. You derived perverted sexual pleasure from this act of what he was doing, or acts of what he was doing to this child. You were a willing or even enthusiastic participant within this rape and abuse of what was happening to this child. The full extent and the long-term impact of what you two did, meaning Rebecca and Oliver, to this young child, may never be known, but it is clear it has had a profound effect on her. This judge was so moved, so shocked at the depravity here, at a woman of 26 and a man of 38, planning, and who had planned and tried to encourage others to join to sexually abuse and rape children. They really had tried to pursue this sickening campaign against abuse of children. And it really was a campaign. They went out of their way to find children, to take photographs, to inflict pain on children, to rape and abuse children. Very, very young, extremely young children. Extremely young in some cases. Boys and girls of all different ages, but no older than 12. So Rebecca Holloway from Grimsby and Oliver Wilson from, I think, Donington in Lincolnshire admitted to the offences, and I think she admitted, to 2 offences of rape, and he was charged with 11 in the end. And this included attacking and raping his children on multiple occasions. It wasn't just a one-off. This was multiple attacks on the same children. So in separate offences, because he had done more than her, I think Wilson was charged and found guilty at Grimsby Crown Court of 11 counts of rape and I think sexual abuse of young girls. Oliver Wilson was handed a prison sentence of 34.5 years, and Rebecca Holloway was jailed for 13.5 years. Rebecca Holloway had no previous convictions at all, not anywhere, not for anything. Oliver Wilson had, I think, a youth conviction for something, but not related to anything like that. So if the police don't know about you, if there's nothing on you and you look perfect, you look normal, because I don't know what normal is, and I don't know what people think about why they think paedophiles look a certain way. They don't. They don't. They look as normal as me and you. They act as normal as me and you. And if they haven't been caught, you have no way of knowing. In 2016 was the last statistics really done on women, sexual abusers, sexual predators, paedophiles, and there was 142 women and girls that were found guilty, I think, of attacking, including rape and sexual assault and the sex with a minor. 142, that was in 2016. And that's really double the conviction rate of 2 years earlier. So if we see it's now escalating up, and really, you know, the conviction rate is only really the tip of an iceberg, isn't it? And I think Rebecca Holloway, she is the more predatorial. She is a predator. She's a sexual predator, the worst kind of predator. Now, if he hadn't have put things online or things on eBay that made these police look into him, she would never have been caught. So once this case all come to light and we could name then this person, this Oliver Wilson, and we could show his pictures, lots of people come forward, and there was a young girl of 24 who came forward, and she used to be friends with Wilson. I think she had met him online, and after meeting him online, she often sort of ring him, and he would text her and stuff, you know, there's going to meet up, and they talked on Facebook and they talked on different things, and she said he looks like a normal bloke, and he was, you know, normal. You know, you can check out, you know, you can check out now people with convictions, can't you? You can check out what your neighbour's doing, you know, if they got a sex offender, if they're on a sex offenders register or whatever they're on. But he wasn't, was he? So she thought this was great, you know, she's got a bloke and he's interested in her. She was a single mother, she had a very, very young child. And she said to him, you know, and he asked her out, and she said, well, I can't really go out because I haven't got a babysitter, you know, I'm on my own, I've got a little baby, young baby. And so he suggested he comes around and brings pizza around. And he did that on a few occasions. And there was a relationship forming between the two of them. But she said things now, because this has all come out, you know, did he do anything to her child? Because she couldn't be sure if he had or not. Because one, she wasn't looking for that. But she does remember him getting lots of messages from a girl called Rebecca. And also photos going backwards and forwards. And when she asked him about this and was pressing him about this, because she thought it was another girl, you know, she didn't think we had a paedophile in her house and, you know, looking at her child or taking photos of her child. That wasn't what was on this girl's mind. She's more thinking, he's got a girlfriend and he's not telling me, or he's playing me. And more she questioned him, he didn't like it. And he just kept saying, she's just a friend, she's just a friend. But when then she started questioning about what these photos were, you know, not that she'd seen any, because he wouldn't let her see any, he ended the relationship. And she thinks, you know, and she'll never know. She'll never know. Her child was very young. You know, we don't know if he's done anything or just took photos or whatever of these children. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. So I think if this case tells you nothing else, it tells you that women are as dangerous as men when it comes to being paedophiles, when it comes to being child sexual offenders, when they are child predators that will do anything to get to children, because this pair did. I think this case also shows you that people are only on the sex offenders register if they are caught. So you could have gone and checked him out. You could have said, you know, and he had no criminal record. And they wouldn't have told you about the criminal record from when he was a youth, because it meant nothing. And there was no sexual or anything dangerous to that offence anyway. So you'd never have known. You know, if you'd met Rebecca, because she looks quite normal, and you'll see that by the photos, she wasn't a stupid girl. She was a normal girl. You could have been friends with this girl, and at 26, 28, you're going to have, you know, friends with also young children. So this makes this pair, especially Rebecca, probably one of the most dangerous paedophiles, predators of children that this country has ever seen. But this is only the ones we know about. There's plenty more out there that we don't. So I hope you found this case interesting. It's a complicated case, because again we've got the two perpetrators in it. But really the real disturbing person in this case, the real case, what this case is about Rebecca Holloway, a mother, a paedophile, a child predator, 26, from Grimsby, UK. And this case was finalised in 2020. So you know what to do. Thumbs up if you've liked it. You know, hit that thumbs up button. You can you know, subscribe by hitting what Lacey puts up there, you know, on the logo button. Actually, you can subscribe anytime you like, really, but she likes it about her logo up there that she does. You can also follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. So thank you for all your comments. Thank you for everyone that's subscribed. And thank you for taking the time to watch Murder Analysed. Until the next time, bye-bye.